Hello, welcome to Flooring Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Trumpeter's new 1/48 scale H-81A. Now I know what you're thinking, it's a Warhawk. Quite frankly, you're right, it is the P40 Warhawk, but this is the H-81A version, which was the 1940s version of it. Also, it was known as, in the UK, we called it the Tomahawk, and then I think we put self-sealing fuel tanks into it and completely made it too heavy, really, and all the rest of it. But it is still one of those iconic aircraft. It was the first US fighter to go over, I think it was 300 mile an hour, did I read down here? Yeah, 300 mile an hour. Obviously, wartime, as things are, it got superseded extremely quickly by basically the Mustang and the Thunderbolt and things like that. But generally it's one of those aircraft that is iconic because of this being the Tiger. The famous Flying Tigers obviously flew this one. And that's what makes it such an iconic aircraft. And from me, as a shark mouth lover of any aircraft or any vehicle or anything with a shark mouth on it or a shark nose, anything else like that, I'm a complete fan. So I was sold on it, and it's probably what got me into this, seeing the Flying Tigers with this very famous shark mouth in it. And as I saw fantastically on a post on a social media site the other day about the original Angry Birds. So yeah, definitely very nice. So it's great to see this one. We can see down here we've got some beautiful little bit of box art down on there showing it. Okay, on the box itself, as you can imagine, we've got the usual little bit of blurb about it, and that's basically what I was just reading, to be honest. Okay, your kit number for this one is 05807. Okay, and we've got a couple more of your markings down in there showing the different versions of it. So we've got the Panda Bear, February 1942, and we've got the Pursuit Squadron, first Pursuit Squadron down there with Charles Bond, okay, in that one. So you've actually got three different versions of this one, okay. So, in the box itself, now it's 1/48 scale, so there's not going to be too much rattling around down in here, we can see. Just if we pop down in here, we can grab the decals and the bits and pieces, a little bit of photo etch, which is nice to see. Okay, so usual Trumpeter thing, we've got a couple of pull-outs as well. So down in the instructions, usual health and safety blurb on the front, as you can imagine. We've got the sprue call-out just over here. So we've only actually got 3 sprues, including the clear one, a little bit of photo etch and a decal sheet, all right. So moving straight into this one, you're straight into the cockpit itself. So it looks like we've got a little bit of glass assembly, if I'm looking at it correctly, perhaps not. But basically you're going to be laminating a decal down to give you that. We've got a bulkhead going through the front, okay, and then some little bits of pieces going down in there. Basic stuff, got quite detailed really for its scale. That we've actually got a full control column with the area, and we've got a seat bank as well going in there, and all the parts, and we've got the body for the armour behind the headrest, and all the bits and pieces down like that. 2-piece wheels, which, you know, I'm never a fan of with the hub as a separate, just mould them in one, okay, makes it a lot easier, okay. And then basically talking about the gear being put on, to be honest, with the Warhawk, it's pretty easy, very straightforward down there. What I have got nice though, it's got a little bit of side detail as well going into the wall, so we've got both of those going in, which are really going to liven up your cockpit. A little bit of you know, weathering down in there, a bit of dry brushing, a wash, and that'll bring that up lovely, okay. And it's showing those in the positions that they'll be in, okay. Then, usual thing, we're sandwiching both of those all in between the two halves, not forgetting to put your tail wheel in there, and then obviously we can see the points down there. And then quite nice, we have got the guns with full length barrels, okay. Again, there is no engine detail in this one, so literally it's just your exhaust. We've got the engine top coaming going over the top, and that being put in, okay. So down there at the back, that'll be the magazine for the guns, but obviously there is no gun detail itself, okay. But then funnily enough, you do at the front on the wings. So we've got a couple of guns into the wings, okay. We've got a little bit of wheel well detail being put in there from the underside, okay. Sides of those going in there to give you a depth of wheel well down in there. Down here at the back, we've actually got a little bit of flap extension area just down in there, which is the photo etch, so it's going to curve, as you can see up here. Tops of the wings going down, being put in those, so you're going to lose those guns straight away, and it looks like there's no way of opening up to have a look in now, okay. And then Usual thing, we've got the ailerons being fitted on there. We have then got some detail on the inside of the wings we'll have a look at with the actual flaps down below. Tail wheel doors being put on there and the area. And then down here for this, the air scoop, the cooler underneath, you've actually got a little bit of photo etch going to give you the grille section on the front, and that's going to fit in there. Okay. Then we've got that bulbous front area down for the actual gear. Putting those in and you're good to go. We've got a little bit of the flaps that go to the back. Looks like you can only have them in the closed position. Normally these drop open, you can have them in the open. And then we've got a little bit of detail for the wheel. So we've actually got the spinner cap, the prop system, okay, and then the actual retainer on the back. It does have separate control surfaces, but unfortunately they're all molded in one position. It looks like you can't move these around, but that's basically it. It's not going to be rocket science to shim that out a little bit and have them in the deflected positions as is required. Okay, same goes for the rear one as well. You've got a pin system going to be going in there locking it, but I'm pretty sure you could whip that out and have that as a separate. And then following up on the last bit, basically we've actually got the armoured glass system going into that front area being put down. Canopy is movable, so you can slide it back and forth. Okay, the areas, all of those control surfaces being put in, and then obviously the spinner, the hub down the back, and everything else. Pitot tube on, couple little gun sights, the fixed ones on there, and you are done. As I said, nothing, you know, over the top. It is what it is. It's a 1/48 scale aircraft. Okay, so down in here we have got a little bit of photo etch, and when we say a little bit, it is a little bit, but it's a nice little bit of detail down here. We've got that sort of grille for the front end. We've got a photo etch gun sight, and this is those flaps where you can need a small little bend on those to put those right. Okay, so that's going to take care of those. The decals themselves, we'll just have a look in the bag. I do like the way that they always protect them. It's always very nice to see. Okay. And then we've got the decals. So we have got the multiple choices of shark mouth down on there, as we can see, and then we've got the markings. There's your instrument panel one, nothing particular down there, as you can see, but you know, they're not the best decals in the world, but they're totally usable. They're solid colour, which is the main thing. Okay, I think too often sometimes they're a little bit gritty in that, but everything else looks pretty nice on those. Okay, the colour call out, as your usual thing, you've got hobby colours as your standard, but you have got Vallejo options at the top, Tamiya and Humbrol right the way through, and it is showing you ones down there. So obviously this is the famous Flying Tigers markings down here from the 3rd American Volunteer Group, which was January 1942. Okay, so this will be the famous one, if you like, with the famous shark mouths on there. Okay, your other options, as we said, down here you've got the Pursuit Squadron down on here, and then down on here we've actually got this one, February 1932, the Panda Bears. Again, very nice, different ways of seeing it all, different ways of doing it, but pretty much a standard Warhawk markings just like that. Okay, so that's those. Right, into the plastic. So sprues themselves, as you can see, okay, pretty much what you'd expect, nothing out of the ordinary. Looking down here is what it is. It's your standard sort of trumpeter kit. Now this is where it all gets a little bit picky, so what we'll do is we'll walk around it in sections. I think is probably the best way. So starting here at the top, you can see we've got that internal detail, looks quite nice. We've got some very small parts down here, beautifully moulded. Pitot tube may be a little bit heavier and everything else. This down here, we're assuming this is the flap section. The riveting just looks a little bit heavy, shall we say. I must admit, it's not the nicest riveting we've seen down in there. And again, back on these, if I try and catch it in the light, you can see it, very heavy riveting, a little bit over the top, I must admit. Again, the front combing down here, again, extremely heavy riveting. In fact, those have got to be literally scale size of your thumb riveting, so it's a little bit over the top down there. Okay, some of the smaller parts, as you can see, very nicely done though, no problem at all. Generally, you've got no flash, no nothing, got milling marks all over it though. And again, on this one, you catch it in the light. Hopefully we can catch it on the light. We've got a light shadow, there we go, you can see it. Extremely heavy, but again, not too much. The guns themselves that you're never going to see, okay, got a little bit of flash on that one. The rest of them are all pretty clear. The all-important sort of fuselage side, as you can see, heavy panel lining, heavy sort of riveting detail on that. Not, you know, the nicest, but there again, you know, it's an older aircraft. you could probably get away with that with more a subtle wash perhaps down for the panel lines instead of a heavy wash, because you'd use that on a darker one. But it is nice that we have got raised details as well. So we've got this door down the back here is a raised section. Okay, so it's a nice mixture of both. We've got raised and recessed on this one, which is pretty much what we'd expect. Okay, again, looking up here on the control ones, maybe a little bit heavy, overdone for the stress, because obviously these are fabric covered tails. Again, if I try and catch it in the light, there we go, you can see it. Maybe a little bit heavy. Spinner cap looks absolutely fine. Wheel well details looks no problem at all. And then working our way up, exactly the same mirrored on the other side. Again, some access panels raised, maybe a little bit over raised. Inside detail, as you can imagine, there's none, because you're going to put in all of your own. Okay, so you've got some ejector pin marks in there. You maybe just want to take a few little swipes with a sanding stick. Again, these ones on the walls for these the actual instrument panels, the side walls, sorry, from the cockpit, they've got raised you know, ejector pins on there, so you're going to need to sand them off to make sure they're a nice clean fit onto the side of the wall. And again, we're going in these here. This is the detail that is obviously for the actual control surfaces for the tailplanes to go onto. We have got quite nasty you know, marks from the ejector pin. You're going to need to sand them out totally to get a nice clean fit. And horribly, I take it that these are ejector pins and probably shouldn't be in there. In fact, I'm guessing they're not, should be in there. But as you can see, we've got ejector pins in between the actual ribbing detail, and they're quite deep. And unfortunately, you've got very fine detail both sides of it. This bar's running down there. I'll be more inclined to put another one in there and there, well, or just leave them. It could be that they should be left. It's just I'm not too sure on this one. Perhaps they do have the little holes in there, but certainly they're not the same depth. Again, if you're not a rivet counter, I think it'll be easier to leave them, clean them up a bit and call them detail, than actually trying to actually fix the problem. But generally, apart from that, not too bad at all. Unfortunately though, I think this is Trumpeter's, the care hasn't been taken. Let's just put it that way. As I say, I don't know the aircraft particularly well. You think I would, but I don't. Okay, but again, nice control surfaces. You can see down here at the bottom, we've got no problem at all with the actual wing. It's a nice one-piece wing system down the bottom, and actually doesn't look too bad at all. Okay, it's nice, it's got a good shape, nice textures all over it and everything else like that. But again, when you're looking in nice and tight, this riveting looks a little bit better, if I'm honest, on this wing. If I catch it in the light there, you can see it down there. I think it looks a little bit nicer, but again, I just think that the riveting detail is a little bit overdone, a little bit heavy. Centers of the wheels for the hubs, the control surfaces is for the ailerons. This is, again, you got a little bit of ribbing detail down into there. Those huge long guns that we're never going to see, actually got some nice details down in there. Very much okay with the gear. The wheels are just plain nasty. I don't like those at all. The top bit for the armor behind the pilot, no problem. The pilot's seat's actually quite detailed, really. No problem with that. Again, the exhaust, we got two split exhausts, which means they'll be hollow, which is no problem. We'll have a look when we flip it over. Down onto this side, again, as you can see, we've got some of the parts. The hubs, which are going to go on the front for the actual wheel wells, no problem for those at all. The seat detail, okay, we've got rudder pedals, instrument panel parts, tail wheel. The spinner prop itself's a little bit flashy, not the nicest on there, okay. But I think, you know, it would be usable. It's just going to need a little bit of a clean up. Down on the blind side again, so we have got hollowed out exhaust, which is quite nice. It's going to be a little bit of a pain putting them together. Okay, and again, just being careful, mindful, things like down on here, we've got, you know, the actual ejector pin is raised. So when you try and sandwich this guy from this side to this side together, you're going to have a join, and you're going to want to take care of that. Okay. Generally, details down in here you're not going to see, but I would clean this up. This is quite, I don't know, almost robust down in here. It's quite heavy and chunky, but I think it needs to be cleaned up and refined a little bit before you put the two halves together. You do get some nice bits of detail though. Although it's covered in ejector pins, which quite frankly these are nasty, I don't even know how you're going to go about trying to fill that without ruining the detail around it. Personally, I'll probably scrape clean down in there to make them flush, but it's nice to see we've got the details here. So that's quite a nice touch, the extra strengthening on the flap areas for the walkway. Okay, internal details, quite nice, got a nice little bit of ribbing, a little bit of hose work down in there, and things like that. So, you know, again, it's a kit of two halves. I'm not jumping up and down thinking this is great, this is the finest Warhawk I've ever seen, because it isn't that, that's for certain. Clear parts, beautifully clear. We say it every time, but you come to Trumpeter, they've mastered the art of clear parts, even on curved stuff and things like that. That is absolutely fine, no problem. However you look at it, whatever angle, that's no problem at all. And you do get the clear part we were saying for the instrument panel, which is quite a nice touch. Okay. So there we go. Unfortunately, I think it's let down by over riveted. The scale effect is just definitely not there, if we're honest. It's a little bit heavy and it's a sloppy build. There's a little bit of flash running around it here and there. The ejector pins are a little bit proud. I'd like to see those properly flushed off, cleaned off. It's almost like it's the mold is just a little bit sort of, you know, chunky. It's not very refined like we've seen in recent builds and things like that. Right the way to down here, I don't know if you can see it, we've got this, which is obviously some type of scratching that's in the mold, which is transferred, but this is all raised. So you might want to take a couple of swipes at a stick just to make sure that goes flat. It's not on the other side, so not sure about going on there. But these ejector pins are just plain nasty. And in this day and age of modern injection molding, slip molding, and all those cool things they can do now, to put huge great ejector pins in middle of wheel wells and stuff like that, I haven't seen that on a Trumpeter kit for actually quite a while now. So going back, this, I presume, is an older kit that was maybe designed even a couple of years ago and now has been released. And that's what tends to happen. I think a lot of these companies do a lot of R&D, they get it all sorted, and then the market conditions maybe aren't just quite right for it at that point. So they might hold it back for a little bit, then release it later on down the line, because we haven't seen this, I would say quality, because it's not quality, but this sort of, you know, old school, old tooling in a Trumpeter kit for quite a while now, but it's back. So again, it's quite nice to be able to review these things and say, yeah, okay, that's got a few little problems down in there, it's going to take a little bit of work. That said, the positives for it, quite nice detail for an out-of-the-box kit with the cockpit, with the sidewalls, things like that. And generally, the shape looks very, very nice. It'll be interesting to see what the fit is like, and taking a little bit of care just to make sure it's all good. But, and I have to say it, it's got a shark's mouth on it, so I'm sold every time because I'm biased. So there we go. That's Trumpeter's new 1/48 scale H-81A Hawk, or Warhawk, or Tomahawk, or all the other hawks.